Hey everybody, it's Jamison with Wide Range Adventures. I'm going to talk to you today about footwear and boots for hunting and why I chose what I did and suggestions I might have for you as far as like footwear is concerned. Alrighty, so for the past few years I've been using the same brand of boots and I'm excited to just keep moving forward with that. They've been great to me. I haven't had any issues with this brand and I've only enjoyed the products. So what I'm using this year is Crispi boots. This model specifically is new to me. This is the Nevada. This is the uninsulated Nevada. You can tell I used it on our recent spring bear hunt because it's dirty. But this is a boot I've been wanting to try for a while. I've just been cheap and didn't want to buy it. So I've used different boots from Crispi in the past and I've had kind of mixed experiences, but ultimately I think it came down to the break-in process. So both the boots I had prior to this are now discontinued, but I'll talk about them anyway. So it started with the Crispi Dakotas, and they're a very similar boot to the Nevada, but they were a little bit cheaper and they have a little bit different design, and ultimately when I bought them it's because they were cheaper. I love those boots, but the first few months I struggled with them, didn't really care for them because it took a while to break in, and I didn't understand that at the time. I thought it was just this boot sucked, but I kept wearing it because they were my boots, and they ultimately broke in, and they did a good job. But the problem that I had with them is they were stiff, and I'll kind of talk about that in a little bit as far as like what that means, but I didn't care for that. I like more of a flexible boot, and I ended up changing my boot last year to the first generation Crispi Laponia. Love that boot. That boot's probably one of my all-time favorite boots, and I'm excited to hopefully try the new Laponia down the road. But the original Laponia, amazing boot, super flexible. It honestly just feels like a pair of sneakers on your feet with a little bit more ankle protection. But I've wanted to try the Nevadas for quite some time now. These are one of the most popular boots Crispi sells, if not the most popular. And I don't know if it's because of aesthetics, if it's because of certain like influencers that wear these, or if it just like fits that niche for the Western hunter really well. But after wearing this boot on our spring bear hunt, it took me a day to break in. After I got them broken in, like finally, I love this boot. It's not as lightweight as the Laponia that I have, but it is a fantastic boot and I'm happy to use it. Now when I talk about stiffness, when I said like those Dakotas were too stiff, this is a kind of arbitrary number that's placed on boots, and not everyone uses a flex rating. I believe the Dakota was a flex rating of 4, whereas the Laponia I think is a 2.5 and the Nevada is a 3. So what that means is the actual like outsole of your boot has what's called a band inside of it, and that's just kind of like almost a piece of wood that just either supports your foot or keeps your foot from over flexing. And there's different purposes where that's going to come in handy versus not very beneficial. And so a good way that you can tell as far as flexibility is, I don't know if you can tell how much force that takes, but it takes a little bit more effort for me to get that to flex. And that's from a 3 to my Laponias at a 2.5, or where I have sneakers like my running shoes, I can fold in half, no problem. But where that's going to come into play is if you're doing more technical terrain, more side hill, more kind of rocky stuff, it's going to save energy on those hikes. It's going to save the fatigue of your muscles when you have a stiffer boot. But it's going to feel awkward because it's not going to flex and roll around the terrain like you're hoping it will. So if you've never used a stiff boot, it's kind of a weird experience at first because you feel like you're walking with 2x4s. But once you get used to it, having a little bit more of a stiff boot in the proper terrain, it's awesome. They're really great to use. So the Nevada, again, I've been wanting to use this boot for a while, but I'm cheap and I didn't want to pay for it until this year. The whys behind this, it is an uninsulated full leather boot with a nice outsole. This has the Vibram outsole, not the polyurethane that the Laponia does. So this is going to last longer over time and hold up instead of kind of compressed down like the outsole of the Laponia. Like I said, it's full leather. It is a waterproof boot, which I did add a conditioner to this as well. It has what's called their ABSS system in it, and that is the ankle brace support system. And it's pretty much like a memory foam molding that sits around your ankle and just sucks everything in, and you feel super sturdy. I haven't had a pair of boots though that I have worn that I haven't felt comfortable if I rolled. I feel like they all support pretty well, but you notice a difference when you have the ABSS on your feet, on your boot, versus not having it. There's just a different feeling of security. But again, the Nevada has been, I've only had it for one hunt now. When I first got it, I wore it around and got it broken in to the best of my ability before the hunt. But on day one, I ended up with blisters and kind of hot spots, which is going to happen with boots no matter what. The proper thing with that is going to be like taking care of your feet, which is going to lead me into the next part of this video. So taking care of your feet, there are a few things you can and should do as far as like proper treatment and care of your feet. You maybe have heard this before, but everything should start from the ground up. Oftentimes footwear and boots are kind of a last priority for people when they should be one of the first priorities, especially if you're doing like long hikes, heavy pack outs, things like that. And when you have like a full leather boot, proper care is very important, because even though there is some Gore-Tex lining and there is some breathability, ultimately if water can't get in, it makes it hard for water to get out. And so you're going to have heat, you're going to sweat, it's going to be a little uncomfortable. So things you can do. Extra socks. If you are backpacking, I try to take one extra pair of socks and I'll just swap them each day so that way they're dry. If your feet get really wet, like you cross a creek and it submerges and you get water inside your boots, try and get them dried out and get a clean, dry pair of socks on your feet. If you start to feel hot spots, you can get some moleskin and put it on that area to help with the friction. If you get a blister, there are different things you can do. Some people recommend popping the blister, some people don't. From a medical perspective, you should keep the blister intact because that has the proper fluids and it's acting as a cushion in its own. So you should just bandage around it and then wear it that way. I don't do that. I usually pop my blister and then just tape over the top of it and get on with my way. I feel like it's easier, it's less pressure on my foot. So I like to use moleskin. But again, clean, dry socks, keep your feet dry, keep them clean. If you can, take extra socks. Moleskin is a must. And then simple things, trim your toenails before you go, because you'll be doing a lot of downhill and you'll have a lot of pressure on the tips of your toes. And if you have longer toenails than normal, you'll get a lot of pressure and you'll get what's called a subungual hematoma under your nail, and that's just essentially like a bruise under your nail bed, but you're gonna feel it. It doesn't feel great, it hurts. But again, these are the boots I'm gonna be rocking for 2023. I'm very, very excited about them. I love Crispi boots. I love all my Crispi products I've had. I've never had a big disappointment once I've been fully broken in with the boots. The Nevada is such a sweet boot, super comfortable. I feel like it's kind of a sweet in between as far as like if you're doing desert hunting or you're doing more technical terrain, rocky terrain, it's going to last for either side. It's going to help you. Now, I do highly recommend Crispi boots. There are other boots out there, but from my personal experience over the last few years, Crispi has been a phenomenal company, and for me it's nice because the headquarters is here in Utah, and so even though it's an Italian-based company, I feel somewhat of a drive to go pick up boots from them because they're local to a degree. But that's the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please, as always, like, subscribe, comment, share this with your friends, and get lost in the adventure.